February 2024 Nintendo Direct Speculation. Take 3 and action. Okay now. Today is February 6th, 2024. As is typically the case, a Nintendo Direct is considered to be imminent. Likely need to happen either next week or the week after. Of course, this year, this time around, I've chosen to get ahead of the curve and make the speculation tape early. And still unscripted, but I figured this way I might be able to composite things in at a better quality, given a week or so to hopefully get it done. Of course, before I begin, let's go over the rules for speculation this time around. Rule number 1. The rumored next Nintendo Switch likely won't be announced at this Direct. It will instead likely be announced sometime during the next fiscal year, meaning sometime after the online servers for Wii U go down permanently in April. Rule number 2. I'm not expecting anything too big at this Direct because of the fact that there is a high probability of a new Nintendo system coming out either at the end of this year or the beginning of next year. So therefore, it's likely that everything that would be featured at the Direct will be the sorts of things that were greenlit a while back but are only now ready to showcase in the final batch of software. And of course, this would be the likely the final Nintendo Direct, focusing specifically and exclusively on the Nintendo Switch as we know it. However, that isn't to say this won't be the last Nintendo Direct to feature software for the Nintendo Switch. if the next system is announced between the shutdown and the June Direct, and there'll still be plenty of Nintendo Switch software at the June Direct. But that will be that'll be the point where we start seeing less and less of it. Rule number 3 is that many of the things showcased are rumors from outside sources, of which I will try to speculate on the odds of them happening, but I have no inside knowledge, so therefore take everything I say with a grain of salt. And rule number 4, concerning the tally of things I get correct and things I get wrong. If it happens, if it happens in the sizzle reel rather than getting a full presentation, it still counts. If it happens in the Japanese Direct, but not the American one, it also still counts. Because my speculation is not limited to just the American Direct, as I usually watch both Directs to get the full picture. Yeah. But that's enough hanging out in the wind. Time to sail on down and discuss the matter of what is already announced to be coming to Switch. The first of 3 categories. So, therefore, in the known category, we have Princess Peach Showtime, Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door, Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, Splatoon 3 Side Order DLC, and the heavily desired Metroid Prime 4. And for third-party titles, Sonic X Shadow Generations, Riviera The Promised Land, Yu-Gi-Oh! Early Days Collection, Tomb Raider 1-3 Remastered, Shantae Advance Risky Revolution, Hollow Knight Silk Song, Professor Layton and the New World of Steam, Dragon Quest III HD 2D. So, of course, I'll start with the first party titles. Princess Peach Showtime, that will probably have that might have some additional stages and associated costumes to showcase. So, therefore, there is a decent likelihood that they could showcase a new stage or two at the Direct. Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door. I mean, this new version has, not too long ago, been rated by at least one ratings board, possibly more. So therefore, it's reasonable to assume that the release date announcement is imminent. And what better place to announce a release date than at a Direct? Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. Now this one is admittedly not as likely to get a full presentation unless there's some new content that wasn't in the original 3DS version. So that one might just be a spot in the sizzle reel. With Splatoon 3 side order, again, don't expect too much for this. I mean, considering how close it is to release. I mean, so it might be a short promotion, but otherwise I'm not expecting too much for that one. And last but not least, Metroid Prime 4. Throughout many of these unscripted editorials, I had been saying that I doubted that Metroid Prime 4 would appear in 2023, arguing that 4 in 24 would be the way to go. "2023 has come and gone. So therefore, at least the part about it not being in 2023 has come to fruition. Now what about the out 2024? I mean, could it finally be time? Who knows? But I'm not getting my hopes up. Though I think there might be a good 50% chance of seeing a short teaser trailer. But again, I make no guarantees. And now on to the third parties. Sonic X Shadow Generations. I'm not expecting much information on the on Shadow's campaign. However, I don't see why Sega would pass up on the opportunity to promote this new reissue at the Direct. So, if nothing else, we'll probably see a few new clips of a couple new clips of the original campaign. So, yeah. Definitely a good 60% chance of Sonic X Shadow Generations. Now, here's an interesting case. Riviera the Promised Land. This one, it was released in English on the Game Boy Advance, if I remember correctly. Yet, no confirmation for an English language version yet. We know it's coming to Nintendo Switch in Japan, but that's all we know. So, on one hand, the American Direct could be the announcement that's going to be available in English. But on the other hand, there was another title in the series that never got the English release. So therefore, it might just be a short spot in the Japanese Direct. Next in line is a similar case. Yu-Gi-Oh! Early Days Collection. We don't even have the official English name of this one. That was just a basic computer translation. And furthermore, the two titles known to be in this collection, one from the Game Boy Color, one from the Game Boy Advance. Not even sure if these even have American, unlike with, at least with Riviera, that one had an English language version in the past. Did these Yu-Gi-Oh! Titles ever get that? Because I could be mistaken, but I think these were only ever released in Japan. So therefore, these might just be ones that only appear in the Japanese Direct. Next in line, Tomb Raider 1 through 3 Remastered. Admittedly, I'm not sure if there's much to say on this one, and so this one might just be a slot in the sizzle reel. And that's assuming that the Direct even happens before the release date. Because here's the thing. If a in rule number 5 of this that I forgot to say, if a title is released before the Direct, then it is therefore disqualified from showing up in the Direct unless it's a larger first party title, or it's getting DLC. Both of which I doubt are the case for, both of which both of which are not the case for Tomb Raider Remastered, unless I'm mistaken. Next in line, Shantae Advance Risky Revolution. This was at the Indie World Showcase. So, Honestly not sure if it would show up in the American Direct. Might show up in the Japanese Direct, though. So, honestly not sure, but I figured I'd mention it anyway. Next in line, Hollow Knight Silk Song. I have no idea with this one. But considering the fact it's a running gag that this one is expected to be at the Direct, but never shows up at the Direct, I'll just say 1% chance of this being at the Direct, simply because of how this one tends to not show up in the Direct. In fact, I'll just go as far as to say that this one will probably just get a surprise standalone trailer on some random day when no one's expecting it. So again, 1% chance of happening. Next in line, Professor Layton in the New World of Steam. This one, I don't recall us getting much in the way of gameplay footage for. So, this could be the time to showcase something in a short teaser. But on the other hand, I think this might actually be slated for, I'm not sure if this is slated for 2024 or 2025, so I'd say 5% chance. And finally, Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake. There's been a decent a decent amount of radio silence concerning this title. So therefore, it's unclear if this one will show up. It might not be ready yet, but on the other hand, there's usually something from Square Enix at the Direct. So, for that reason alone, I'd say that there is a chance that this might be the time to finally lift the lid on this pot that's been simmering away in the background. But on the other hand, this might be more of a June Direct sort of thing. So I'm honestly not sure. But well, I will say there's probably I'd say that there's a 20% chance of Dragon Quest III being at the Direct at the most. And a 60% and a 40% chance of a 60% chance of a Square Enix title in general showing up. And by the logic of my percentages, a 40% chance that actually no, that doesn't work. 60%, let's see, 60% chance in general, 20%. Oh, yeah. 40% chance of it being, at least a 40% chance of it being, of there being something from Square Enix, but not this. But I'll get into what I suspect could be a Square Enix title if it's not Dragon Quest a little later on. But for now, Link should probably get off of this veranda or balcony or whatever, and get someplace a bit warmer. Yeah. Maybe back up a little or something. I want the... yeah. I want the fire to be in frame, but also... yeah. Want Link to be looking slightly to the side. Yeah. Just wish I could pan the camera a little to the right. Come on. Yeah. Never mind. Anyway. Yeah, I guess that'll have to do. Yeah. Anyway. Now for the rumored category. The titles that others have said are likely to happen at varying likelihoods. Starting off with the one that's been in probably the most talked about one as of late, Hi-Fi Rush. This is a Microsoft-owned title that people have been saying would have a decent chance of being a good fit on Switch. And given the track record, it definitely seems plausible. However, there is one other thing worth mentioning. Another leg for the argument to stand on. There is a recent leak or data mine which revealed some t-shirt textures that have aroused a bit of suspicion, shall we say. So, for that reason, it is reasonable to assume that there might be something to this rumor. Plus, it was recently announced that, I think it was Phil Spencer that said there would be some kind of announcement happening soon concerning the future of Xbox, so it's possible that this might be in response to the fact that this and some other titles might be coming to Switch. So, yeah, I'd say a 70% chance that Hi-Fi Rush might, the Hi-Fi Rush rumor might be real. I mean, might be true. Well, 70% maximum. Next in line are two similar titles, which I'll have to discuss together. Metroid Prime 2 Echoes Remastered, and Metroid Prime 3 Corruption Remastered. There's a good chance that these, in one way or another, will show up. I mean, here's the thing. It's my theory that due to the fact that there are likely recurring elements of the Metroid Prime series that exist in and that's needed to be recreated for 4, and likewise for 1. It's reasonable to assume that that would lighten the load for a remaster of 2 and 3. If the assets were needed for a different entry in the series, may as well use those assets in a remaster of an earlier one, or later if we're talking in Metroid Prime 1. Plus, I mean, Retro Studios would have had to have been doing something post Tropical Freeze, but pre Metroid Prime 4. Perhaps they were tasked with remastering the original 3. But who knows? As for whether it'll be separate releases or a bundle, I mean, here's the thing. They could easily release Echoes on its own for $40 like before. I mean, like you did with 1, I mean. Or, alternatively, they could sell both for either $60 or $70. It's honestly hard to say. I can see it going either way. Would it be both for $35 each? Or just separate, or both of them separately for $40? Hard to say. But regardless, I'd say that there's a good 70% chance that we'll see at least one of these titles at the Direct. Next in line, this is going to be a bit of a difficult one, but GameCube Online. People have been demanding it for a long time now, and unfortunately, those trademarks are fueling the fire. So, the question is, could it happen? Maybe. I mean, it's been a year. But is that long enough? I mean, is a year since the last expansion pack update enough? Or should it be a year and a half? And are those GameCube controller trademarks even for GameCube Online and the um likely wave-birderized GameCube controller? For all we know, and for all we know, the trademarks could have actually been for Thousand Year Door or some other GameCube game that's set to be reissued. But one argument towards GameCube Online is that so far, with the exception of Super Mario Sunshine and Thousand Year Door, all the GameCube games that got ported to Switch, I mean, an argument could be made that those are actually remasters of Wii games rather than GameCube games, due to them containing the quality of life adjustments from the Wii version, the control schemes from the Wii version. So, I'm honestly not sure about this one. Could be something that happens this time around. Could be something for next time. Who's to say? But moving on, there is a third-party title which I think has a decent chance. That is Valorant Hearts Coming Home. Now, I'm actually giving this an 80% chance of happening, because this seems like just the sort of low-profile title that would be at the Direct. The sort of thing that makes perfect sense to be at the Direct, but hardly anyone would think to say that it might be at the Direct. And so far, Ubisoft is still putting things on Switch, especially if it's something that's not too graphically intensive or power hungry. So, yeah. 80% chance of Valorant Hearts coming home, making itself at home on Nintendo Switch. And at this particular Direct. Of course, there were some. Of course, there was something with the ratings board saying that just give us an extra leg to stand on, but we don't need that leg. It's coming. Most likely. Next in line is one that's been rumored for a bit, but I am starting to have my doubts about this one. A title I've been referring to as Fire Emblem Echoes, Genealogy of the Holy War. Here's my issue with this one. We just got Fire Emblem Engage last year. Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door is seemingly almost ready to release. So here's the question. If Intelligent Systems was busy with both of these titles, would they have even have time to make Genealogy of the Holy War? Sure, it's possible that this remake could have been outsourced to a different studio, but I do have to question if it's too soon for Genealogy of the Holy War. I mean, sure, it makes sense why they would choose this game. They already did the first 3 games on the DS and 3DS, respectively. So therefore, it seems plausible that it would be time for Genealogy of the Holy War. But on the other hand, it was released in the original SNES version was released on Super Famicom Online in Japan a couple years back. So has it been long enough? But again, the title never got an English language release officially, so this could be this could be the time when we finally get the official version. But then again, it's also worth noting that Horatio 776 is not on the Nintendo Switch Online anywhere. So how do we know that whoever revealed this rumor didn't get confused? But again, I'd say only a 20% chance of this being the case simply because the timings don't seem to fit. And the timings are where I'd say that this rumor doesn't quite hold water. Next in line, Kid Icarus Uprising HD, or at least a sequel thereof. It's been a couple years since Sakurai I wrapped up development on Smash Ultimate, and so far we've gotten no further announcements from Sora Limited. So I'd say that that alone does yield a possibility that something from Sora Limited will be announced soon. And furthermore, there is that new branch of Bandai Namco that came to light recently. Not to mention all those job listings a couple years back. So that does definitely mean that there could be a strong 50% chance of there being something from Sora Limited on the way. Especially considering the fact that Sakurai said that his lectures and his insights will soon be coming to an end which could mean that there's a new project that he has to attend to. But on the other hand, sure, there's definitely a 50% chance of there being something from Sora Limited soon. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that something is Kid Icarus Uprising. Sure, it's something that has been heavily requested for a long time. Something that even Sakurai has questioned if could even happen. But on the other hand, it could be argued that Sakurai questioning if it could happen might mean that it's not. Yeah, it might just be something else entirely that Sakurai is working on. So I'd say I'd say it's at most a 20% chance of Kid Icarus Uprising or a sequel thereof, but a 50% chance of something from Sora Limited. Next in line, 2 titles that both have similar chances. Donkey Kong Odyssey, as I will refer to it, and Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. Now, first of all, there's been a rumor of a large open world Donkey Kong title for a couple years now. On the other hand, in that open world title would likely be a perfect fit for the next system, in which case an HD port of Donkey Kong Country Returns could instead be what is next in line. But there are counter-arguments to both. The counter-argument for Donkey Kong Country Returns is, sure, we don't know what Rare was working on on post Tropical Freeze and pre Prime 4. But on the other hand, despite how simple it would be to make it happen, and unless it's being outsourced, I question if Retro Studios would even have time to remaster Donkey Kong Country Returns on top of everything with Metroid Prime. So, could it happen? Maybe. But, again, would the studio have had an opening for that? By way of contrast with Donkey Kong Odyssey, that one is said to be made by the same team that did Super Mario Odyssey, rather than Retro Studios. So therefore, there might have been a bigger opening for that to happen. But I'm just going to give both of these a 15% chance each. So 30%, thus making a 30% chance of Donkey Kong in general at being at the Direct. But it is worth noting that as Nintendo seems to be celebrating a bit of an anniversary for Donkey Kong at this time, so that might increase the chances a bit. Next in line. There are 4 different rumors for the Legend of Zelda series. The first one is a Grezzo remaster. The second, Twilight Princess HD. The third, The Wind Waker HD. And the fourth, a remaster of Ocarina of Time. Let's start with the one I think is the most likely. The Grezzo remaster. Well, let's just get one thing straight. It ain't the Oracle games. Less than a year ago, Nintendo made a big deal about their arrival on Nintendo Switch Online. A full-on trailer for both Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages, something of which is usually only reserved for usually only reserved for expansion pack titles and titles that are being revealed at Directs. So if it's not so therefore, this is the first time that something that was not, say, Earthbound got such a big trailer when that something was not an expansion pass tier item. Or expansion pack tier item. So therefore, no, it's not a remaster or remake of the Oracle series. Forget it. So, admittedly, I can't entirely rule out the possibility of perhaps it being the scrapped third Oracle game, but doubtful. Of course, it's reasonable to assume that won't be the Minish Cap either. I mean, too soon for that one as well. Only just released on Game Boy Advance Online last year. However, I still say that there's a chance that a Rezo remaster could happen. But what is it a remaster of? If it's not the Oracle games, if it's not the Minish Cap, what else could it be? Well, I think we can rule out Four Swords. At least the original Game Boy Advance version. Because the way I see it, we'll probably just get The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past Four Swords on Game Boy Advance Online sometime later this year. That seems to be more likely what would happen. However, that doesn't rule out Four Swords Adventure from the GameCube. So, perhaps that is what was actually the case. One could have easily mistaken mistaken footage of Four Swords for footage of the Minish Cap. Or the Oracle games. But then again, now that I think of it, I guess we can't entirely rule out the possibility of Four Swords. Wasn't there a DS version? Yeah, but no. I'm just going to assume that the original Four Swords is a Game Boy Advance Online title, and that if it's a remaster of Four Swords, it's Four Swords Adventures. However, there are other titles worth considering for this as well. Phantom Hourglass, Spirit Tracks, Triforce Heroes, and the one I think might just be the most likely of all, The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds. So, if it's one of the titles from the DS or 3DS, then therefore, the Grezzo remaster rumor is plausible. Of course, we can't rule out the possibility that Grezzo could be working on an entirely original Legend of Zelda game, but I think it might be a bit soon for that. Of course, next in line, Twilight Princess HD. And, I guess, Wind Waker HD as well. Let's get one thing straight concerning Wind Waker and Twilight Princess. It won't be a double pack. Forget it. And the graphical styles are completely different. The ratings are completely different. There is no way that Nintendo would sell these titles for so cheap. But as separate releases, it could happen. However, I think the more likely of the two, if we only get one, would be Twilight Princess HD. Simply because of the two, unless I'm mistaken, Twilight Princess HD is the only one of the two to have built-in motion controls. So therefore, because of the motion controls, it would make more sense, most likely, for Twilight Princess HD to be ported to Switch, in order to preserve that aspect of it. Whereas with the Wind Waker, sure, they could make it available on Switch, just like they did in just straight up make the Wii U version available. Or it could be or the original GameCube version could be a launch title for this rumored GameCube Online. And the way I see it, it's one or the other. It's either going to be part of GameCube Online or a separate release. We're not getting both. So, for that reason, I'd say that given the two, with the chances for these two former GameCube titles, Twilight Princess has the highest chance because because it would be classified as a Wii game and therefore be released as part of the ongoing series of Wii remasters. And final Legend of Zelda title on this list, Ocarina of Time HD. Let's get one thing straight. It ain't going to be a full-on remake like what has been demonstrated through those fan-made Unreal Engine and Ultra HD demonstrations. No. Although, what we might see, if it happens, is the 3DS version being re-released in HD. That I could see happening. Though I do question the chances because it hasn't been that long since since the since the original N64 version was added to N64 Online. However, one point in Ocarina of Time 3D's favor sorry about that, meant HD, not 3D. One point in Ocarina of Time HD's favor is Master Quest. So far, we have yet to see Master Quest. I mean, we have yet to see the Master Quest version of Ocarina of Time show up on Nintendo Switch Online. So, therefore, the Master Quest could be the reason for Ocarina of Time HD happening. Next in line, Xenoblade Chronicles X. This seems to be a simple enough title. I mean, because here's the thing. In Monolith Soft finished up work on Xenoblade Chronicles 3 a couple months back, at least a year, or maybe a year ago. So, for that reason, it's plausible that Monolith Soft might have had time to port over Xenoblade Chronicles X. Wouldn't really need much work. I mean, it would just be a matter of simply making it work on Nintendo Switch. But of course, there's also a chance that maybe Monolith Soft chooses to add in something that never got made in the original release, but I'm not getting my hopes up for that. I'll just assume that that'll be an otherwise straightforward port with the DLC included. I mean, the original DLC from Wii U. Of course, then again, there is one other rumor. Xenosaga HD. I mean, again, there is that, subsidiary of Bandai Namco again, which could have been working with Monolith Soft to bring back Xenosaga. But, then again, considering an HD remaster would probably take a lot more time than... Well, it would probably take a significant amount of time longer than a simple port of something that's already in HD. I question the timing with this one. It might be a bit too soon for Xenosaga HD. Oh. And here's something of interest for the next three. These three are ones that never or made it into those previous takes. Because the problem was, with the first take, the voiceover didn't get recorded. So, therefore, I had to scrap that take and start over simply because there was no voiceover. The second take was interrupted at Kid Icarus and was never able to be resumed. But, of course, it is worth noting that 2 out of 3 are ones that I planned on mentioning in Take 2. But the third one is one I only just now thought to add. Of course, you might have seen this one coming because of something I said earlier, but, yeah. Hi-Fi Rush is not the only Xbox title rumored to be coming to Switch. Also rumored are not Xenoblade, I already spoke of that one, and that's not owned by Microsoft, that's owned by Nintendo. Anyway. From Xbox, it's rumored Gears of War, Sea of Thieves, and Psychonauts. So let's go through those in that order. Gears of War. A series that's been awfully quiet lately. And also, I mean, there are plenty of first and third person shooters on Switch. So therefore, Gears of War should run on Nintendo Switch just fine. Especially if we're talking the older titles. And I mean, I can see why Microsoft would be willing to give this a chance on another system. I mean, they have Halo. They don't, so between Halo, Call of Duty, and Gears of War, I can see why they wouldn't necessarily care as much about Gears of War being a first party exclusive, or second party exclusive actually. I mean, being exclusive to Xbox, and Microsoft already has too many shooters at this point. So, yeah, there's a decent chance that there might be something to this rumor. Next in line, Sea of Thieves. I mean, this is a Rareware title, so it makes sense why there'd be rumors of it coming to Switch. However, I rank this one lower than Gears of War for one main reason. Semi-realistic water is not as common on Nintendo Switch. So, therefore, that alone makes it so that the chances of Sea of Thieves coming to Switch is just ever so slightly reduced. At least 1% lower. But otherwise, the graphic style is more stylized than realistic, so yeah, the Switch might be able to pull it off. And with it being an MMO, I mean, people might not complain if it's a cloud version instead of a native version. So, could it happen? Probably. And the one I only thought to add to the list before starting this, Psychonauts. So, this rumor is a bit older, but on the other hand, this one is already not exclusive to Xbox. Psychonauts 2 also released on PlayStation. So, I guess the question is, would Microsoft go through all the trouble of reducing Psychonauts 2 down to something that the Nintendo Switch could run? They might. I mean, again, it's a style, the graphics are stylized, so it could happen. Of course, then again, I didn't say Psychonauts 2, I just said Psychonauts, so could be just Psychonauts 1, which, let's face it, Psychonauts 1, that could have run on the GameCube. So, therefore, if it can run on the GameCube, it can run on Switch. I mean, I think the only reason for it not being on the GameCube was the disc size limitation, in which case, if not for the timing, it could have just been ported to Wii just fine, thus getting around the storage limitations. But anyway, Psychonauts, perhaps. Next in line is a title that's been rumored for a few years now, but so far has yet to see the light of day. Mass Effect Legendary Edition. On one hand, the Nintendo Switch can handle this easy enough. I mean, there was a Wii U version of the third game. So, therefore, all three should be able to run just fine. But on the other hand, Mass Effect is a bit dormant at the moment. So, would EA want to even bother with Mass Effect at this time, unless they're planning something big for the series soon? unknown. And the last one on this list, Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. There are rumors of a remaster or remake in the works, so if nothing else, we might just see a port of the original. And if the Nintendo Switch can run Skyrim I'll just say, if it can run Skyrim, it can run Oblivion. Most likely. Yeah. So that's all the rumored ones. If I had to guess, only about 20% of this list will actually happen. Maybe 30 at the most. Yeah. There are too many rumored titles to be actually true, but again, I'm pretty sure I already mentioned that I only expect one of the 4 Legend of Zelda rumors to be true. Of course, Donkey Kong, only one of those is going to be true, most likely. So if one happens, the other one's disqualified. Again, the only one where there's 2 listings from one series that I even think has a chance of happening, of both of them happening at the same time is Metroid Prime. But enough of the rumors. On to my theories of things that might or might not happen. Starting with... Wow. Actually, first let me rotate the camera a bit. Yeah. Starting with a new Good Feel Yoshi game. I mean, my reasoning for this is simple. Good Feel has been awfully quiet lately. And it has been since, what? 2018, 2019 that we last got a Good Feel Yoshi game? So therefore, enough time's passed that there's a chance that the next one could be ready. But of course, we must also hold on to the possibility that the next Good Feel Yoshi game will be something that's saved for the next Nintendo Switch, or whatever it's called. So, I'd say there's a 30 to 40% chance of something from Good Feel being at the Direct. But only half of that is percentage of the odds of it actually being a Yoshi game. Because I do have one other idea as to what it could be, which I'll discuss later. Next on the list, Mega Man Star Force Legacy Collection. I mean, we got Battle Network last year, and on top of that, we got the Apollo Justice trilogy. Capcom has really been on a roll with getting its past content and back on modern on the shelves. I mean, content from, and especially content from the, well, yeah. I mean, especially content from Nintendo systems, such as Mega Man and Ace Attorney. Now, definitely too soon for anything new from Ace Attorney. But enough time's passed that we could see the Mega Man Star Force series arrive on Switch through the Legacy Collection line. So, might just be time for the announcement. Next in line, Pac-Man World 2 Repack. It's been a couple years since the first one, and the in-between project, that being Katamari Reroll, has since released, so therefore that leaves an opening for that leaves a potential opening for Pac-Man World 2 Repack. Sure, it's possible that another title in around the same category of Bandai Namco title could be what is revealed instead. But I figured, yeah, a good 20% chance of it happening. Next in line, NES Remix Pack. Last year was the 40th anniversary of the Famicom, and next year the 40th anniversary of the NES. This year, however, is the 10th anniversary of the Wii U title that is NES Remix Pack. Yeah, so therefore, with it being such a simple title, it doesn't seem too out of the question for Nintendo to port NES Remix Pack on its 10th anniversary. Definitely a simple enough title, but then again, also something that might be saved for June. And furthermore, it's unclear, furthermore, would it just be the original all 2 volumes, or would there be a 3rd volume? Hard to say. Next in line is a title which I doubt the plausibility of, but on the other hand would be rather simple to make happen. Silent Hill Master Collection Volume 1. Last year we got the first volume of the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection. And, of course, the engine and emulator for that is perfect for bringing Silent Hill to Nintendo Switch. Both Metal Gear Solid 1 and Silent Hill 1 were on the original PlayStation. Both Sons of Liberty and Snake Eater and Silent Hill 2 and 3 had an HD collection version which would do for the version to represent that part of the series. In both Silent Hill 2 remake and Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater didn't stop, and of course Delta didn't stop Snake Eater from being re-released. So, therefore, why should the same be for Silent Hill 2? The only problem is, would Konami want to go through the effort of porting over the first 3 Silent Hill games for Nintendo Switch alone? Is the Master Collection needed for PlayStation and Xbox? I'd say yes. Simply because, I don't recall if the Silent Hill HD collection made it over to the PlayStation 4. And if it's not on the PlayStation 4, it's not on the PlayStation 5. So that would be reason enough. And as for Xbox, sure, the Master Collection is playable on the Series X through backwards compatibility. But what about Silent Hill 1? So, either way, not as necessary for PlayStation and Xbox, but still worthwhile enough to warrant it, I'd say. Plus, I'd say that Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 2 is still a few months out from being announced. Probably not going to be something that's released probably not going to be something that's unveiled till June. And furthermore, would be announced outside of a direct burst. But with that being said, I will take a moment to say what I think will be in Volume 2. And or more accurately, what won't. Yeah, I could see Portable Ops, and, what's the name of it? Peace Walker. Yeah, Portable Ops, Peace Walker, and Guns of the Patriots, all being the face of Volume 2. Perhaps with Ghost Babble from the Game Boy Color being the bonus title. Because here's the thing. I just don't think that 2 volumes would be enough. I mean, it might be that would probably make the collection too big. No. It'd be better to just do the 4 I said in Volume 2, and then have Metal Gear Rising and both versions of 5 possibly survive, and what was the name of that spin-off? Acid, I think? Have all that be a save for a Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 3. But again, that's all this is a ways out. And I'm not expecting anything more from Metal Gear at this direct. Anything from Metal Gear at this direct. Silent Hill, maybe, but even then, that's only a 15% chance at the most. So, on to the next theory. TurboGrafx 16 online. Sure, I still question if it's too soon after only just getting the Game Boy line last year. But here's the thing. With both times that systems were added, with both occasions that systems were added to the expansion pass, or expansion pack, I should say, why do I keep saying pass? It was 2 systems at a time. N64 and Sega Genesis. Game Boy and Game Boy Advance. So therefore, it makes sense for there to be 2 this time as well. If GameCube is happening, so will TurboGrafx 16, most likely. Of course, there's also a possibility that it could be something else, such as, say, Sega Game Gear, for example. But I think TurboGrafx 16 has the biggest chance. Because, well, I mean, TurboGrafx was on both Nintendo. It was on both Wii and Wii U. So therefore, it wouldn't pass up a chance to have it return for Nintendo Switch Online, would they? And there hasn't been that many TurboGrafx 16 titles released on the eShop. So I'd say it's time. And furthermore, I'd say almost everything that was on Wii and Wii U has a decent chance of showing up on Switch, with the exception of the Irene library, because seeing as those ones were delisted from the eShop early. Plus, many Irene titles have been made available on the eShop in one form or another, so I'd say probably not for the Irene, but definitely a good chance for TurboGrafx 16. Next in line, well, here's the thing. almost every year there's been something for Pokemon. At least every other year, we've gotten at least one Pokemon spin-off. Yeah, to the point where we now have at least one example of every past sort of Pokemon spin-off game ever done on Switch. Trading card games, arena battles, or should I say, yeah, stadium title. That's what I meant. Had a stadium. We've had a stadium. We've had card battler, I think. We've gotten mystery dungeon, some puzzle games, even the return of Snap. So therefore, that leaves two spin-off categories remaining. Pinball, which could happen, but I'm suspecting is more likely to be something that's just added to Nintendo Switch Online. And the other one, Ranger. Although that, and again, there is a third possibility I forgot about, Pokepark. I suppose that could happen, especially because it fits the criteria of Wii remasters. So yeah, I'll just have to add that to the list. But I'll have that be a lower priority because I thought of it second. Anyway. I'd say it's been long enough since, and I think it might have been long enough since the Pokemon Ranger series that they could do a Pokemon Ranger DX. Again, I'm trying to keep it realistic. I mean, sure, they could do a brand new entry in the series, but given the track record, I'm going to assume it's just a DX. But otherwise, it's I just had to put something for that category on the list, so considering how the Pokemon Company likes to churn out games at a speed too fast for the developers to keep up, there's a good probability that there's a good 50% probability that something will be the case. It will be there. So I'd say, yeah, no, at least 30%. I'd say actually. So I'd say 20% chance for rain. Yeah. So 50% is so 15% chance for Ranger, 15% chance for Pokepark, give or take. But enough of that horrid series. Now on to the other possibility for good feel. Kirby's Extra Epic Yarn HD. I mean, Kirby's Epic Yarn is one of the most memorable modern Kirby titles. So, therefore, it is highly plausible that HAL Laboratory could commission Kirby's Epic Yarn to be next in line for being brought to Switch. And considering how quiet things have been for Good Feel lately, maybe this is, and they had to, again, Good Feel is most likely working on something. So, it's possible that this could be it. Or at least one of the things that they've been working on. But of course, the only reason for it not being released already, or of course the biggest reason for it not being released already was, well, simply the fact that the other Kirby titles released recently had to be released first. But otherwise, is it too soon for the 3DS version to be ported over? Because of how, because it wasn't, if you think about it, it wasn't that long since Kirby's Extra Epic Yarn released on the 3DS. So, therefore, that does diminish its chances a little. But if not Kirby's Epic Yarn, then what could be next in line for Kirby? Well, what is the other most memorable recent Kirby game that's not on Switch? Why, unless I'm mistaken, Kirby Planet Robobot, of course. So, therefore, Planet Robobot Deluxe is the other possibility for Kirby that I put down. Simply because I just know there's going to be a 40% chance of there being something Kirby at the Direct. So, I'd say each have a 20% chance. Next in line, another Microsoft title, which people, which I don't think that many people have said much about, but Pentiment, a title that really, a 2D title from last year. Unless I got the wrong one. It could be saying the wrong name, but yeah, that medieval 2D title with the hand on with the Renaissance-esque handmade imagery. Again, with all these other rumors of Microsoft titles that are being brought over, I figured may as well throw in Pentiment as well. That one seems to be something that should run on Nintendo Switch easily enough, so figured why not. Besides, I'm not even sure if this one is Xbox exclusive, so Xbox owned, so it might have so that might yield a better chance. Next in line, Tekken. Just Tekken. Because there are a few possibilities for Tekken if it were to happen. We could see the original 3 Tekken games released as a collection. We could see Tekken 5 get ported over, which would therefore contain the first 3 titles. Or we could just simply have Tekken Tag Tournament 2 from the Wii U. Either way, it's kind of baffling at this point that we don't have a Tekken game on Switch. We've got legacy Street Fighter games, why not legacy Tekken games? The hardware can handle it, so why hasn't it shown up yet? At this point, and otherwise at this point, we'll get Tekken Advance on Game Boy Advance Online before we get a real Tekken game. So, yeah. I mean, I'm not expecting... I mean, obviously, Tekken 7 or 8 is not happening. And the system probably can't handle it, by way of contrast. Otherwise, we might have gotten Street Fighter 6 by now. Or at least Street Fighter 5. But we haven't gotten either of those, I don't think. Either way, I mean, admittedly only a 15% chance of Tekken happening at this point because Tekken seems to be a neglected item for Switch, so... Anyway, moving on. I said that I had a couple other ideas as to what Square Enix could bring to the table. These are Chrono Trigger and Dragon Quest VIII Journey of the Cursed King. Why these ones? Well, these are two of the biggest legacy titles from Square Enix to not be on Nintendo Switch. And we've seen ports of both sorts of games make it to Switch. I mean, with Chrono Trigger, there's a perfectly good PC version that they could port over. But on the other hand, it's possible that the reason for it not happening is because of an HD 2D version in the works, but I'm not getting my hopes up for that, so, and at this point, I'll just take the PC version if nothing else, just to have a Chrono Trigger game on there. I have a Chrono Trigger port on there. Again, Chrono Trigger is the biggest 90s RPG to be missing at this point. Now for Dragon Quest VIII, Journey of the Cursed King, there was a 3DS version which could be ported over easily enough. But otherwise, I mean, we have seen PlayStation 2 titles from... we have seen PlayStation 2 Square Enix titles make it over before. I mean, there was that Saga game that released a year or so ago. So, therefore, seeing as it would appear as though Dragon Quest VIII is is probably the most popular Dragon Quest title that's not on Switch, at least with Square Enix. It only makes sense for this one to be the one that's chosen. Oh, but that reminds me, there was one rumor that I forgot. A localized version of of um, of Dragon Quest X offline, all in one. So that automatically knocks Dragon Quest 8 down a peg. But otherwise, I'd say that there might be a 25% chance of one of the of one of the Square Enix titles on this list to show up. In just one of them. There's 3.5 Square Enix titles on this list. So therefore there's a good chance that one of them will happen. Next in line, Marvel vs. Capcom Collection. This one is a bit of a... I mean, here's the thing. There have been a decent number of Capcom fighting and beat-em-up collections that... fighting games... There have been a number of Capcom fighting games and beat-em-ups that have made it a bit... It's on Switch through collections. So therefore, it's reasonable to assume that there is an engine available to handle CPS2 hardware. And if CPS2 hardware can be done, then that means that they can do Marvel vs. Capcom, at least the first two. Third one was a 3D title, if I remember correctly. So that alone makes it plausible from a technical standpoint. But only from a technical standpoint. Admittedly, I'm not sure what the chances are of Marvel vs. Capcom 3 happening. Although I think that one was on either the PlayStation Portable or the PlayStation Vita, so therefore, if Capcom were willing to put in the work, that one could be ported as well, but the first two should be enough. And the most recent one is probably not all that likely to happen for various reasons, but I'm not ruling it out. No, the problem isn't technical reasons. The problem is licensing issues. Would Marvel and Capcom even bother trying to reach an agreement? That's the question. But on the other hand, I do have my suspicions that a new Marvel vs. Capcom game could be in the works. I mean, that one could be made, or that one could be in development using the same engine as Street Fighter 6. I mean, both the Marvel side of things and the Capcom side of things have characters that were not in previous titles that could make it over. I mean, for example, Kamala Khan from the Marvel side of things, and that tall villain from uh, from Resident Evil Village, the one with the tall one with a long white dress and a large hat. You know who I'm talking about, I think. This is all going off the assumption that you have at least seen or heard something in passing concerning Resident Evil Village. Which, considering the popularity of that title, surely you have seen it. Surely whoever's watching this, if anyone's watching it at all, would have at least seen a promotional picture or something. So yeah, those are two examples, but there are others, such as what's his name, who was on the cover of Street Fighter 6. And some newer X-Men characters. But yeah, I'm getting off topic again. I'm not here to talk about the future of Marvel vs. Capcom. I'm here to talk about what might be at the February Nintendo Direct. Anyway, this one I wasn't sure if I should put in theories or rumors, but Fallout. I mean, again, if you can run Skyrim, you can run Fallout easily enough. And there are rumors of a remaster or remake of Fallout 3, so perhaps, again, either that or the original could be brought over to Switch. And of course, there's always New Vegas. And of course, with a little elbow grease, I still say that Fallout 4 could potentially happen. So, for that reason, I'd say maybe. But I'm only giving it a 5% chance of happening. Rayman Collection. I mean, we have the newest Rayman game, but at the moment, unless I am mistaken, there are no classic Rayman games on Switch in any form. So therefore, perhaps we could see a collection containing those earlier titles. But on the other hand, despite the fact we don't have any Ubisoft titles on Nintendo Switch Online yet, there's also a chance that Rayman could appear on Nintendo Switch Online. Rayman 1 in the form of Rayman Advance, Rayman 2 through the N64 version, and so on and so forth. But again, I doubt the chances of this, so 5% chance. Watch Dogs. This is another Ubisoft title, and I mean, it doesn't seem that difficult to bring over. Especially seeing as the original had a Wii U version, so so just port over that, and that should do the trick. And seeing as Ubisoft seems to have run out of, seeing as far as I can tell, Ubisoft has run out of classic Assassin's Creed titles. I mean, Watch Dogs could have an opening, but only 3% chance. Also, if Assassin's Creed Mirage were coming over, you'd think it would have come over by now, would have been announced by now, but I guess I can't rule that one out, but I doubt it. I mean, otherwise, we would have gotten the other ones by now. Wouldn't we? Then again, Assassin's Creed Mirage is structured more closely to the older Assassin's Creed titles, and therefore might have a better chance of running. Anyway, only 2 left. Star Fox Zero, which, I mean, this one didn't sell all that well and hasn't yet to show up. So, yeah. I mean, even as far in his, I mean, it didn't sell well even for Wii U standards. So, I question the chance of it showing up. Again, only a 3% chance. But then again, with Platinum being done with Bayonetta for the moment, it would seem, there is an opening, so maybe I'm selling that as one a bit short. 5% chance. And lastly, the least likely one to happen, but I'm mentioning it anyway. American McGee's Alice in Wonderland. This is a beloved classic from EA, but because it's from EA, it's unlikely to happen. Especially because it's been years since it happened. So unless EA has plans to remaster it, which is extremely unlikely because how often does EA do remasters? They usually, because come think of it, EA typically just makes a game, forgets about the game, and hopes everyone else will forget about the game. Games from EA, they get released once, and hardly ever again. So, 1%, so only a 2% chance of American McGee's Alice in Wonderland seeing the light of day on Nintendo Switch. But I figured I'd mention it anyway. I thought I heard something about it, but I couldn't find anything about that when looking into the matter, so I'll just assume it's just that there's nothing to that potential rumor. And with that, That the list is complete. That's everything I had on the list. So, I've been rambling on a bit, but yeah. Again, I should probably clarify that I think only 20 to 30% of the things on this list will even happen in the first place. In fact, 30 is too generous. Only 20% of what's on the list will happen. I'm guaranteeing that. That's even when you factor in duplicates. Yeah. I'd be surprised if it's more than 20%. More than 30%. Because let's face it, it's mostly going to be a whole bunch of out of left field items. A bunch of small time farming sims and such. Or am I just being... or am I just being sarcastic with that line? Who knows? Anyway. Either way, I only expect at the most 30% of the items on this list to happen. But more like 20%. And that's when consolidating all the duplicates into one. So, yeah. Some titles like a Mega Man Star Force, and another Kirby game, and something from Square Enix, those have a chance. Some of the Xbox rumors coming true have a chance. Most of the first party rumors don't have a chance. In fact, I'll just go as far as to say that only one of the first party rumors even has a chance of happening. Most of these are not happening. Again, most of that 20 to 30% is made up of the known section, which, again, only about 2/3 of it is likely to happen there anyway. My track record isn't exactly the best. But either way, I've been recording a long time. Hopefully the audio actually gets recorded this time. And with that, it is time to end. Oh, and one last thing. Most likely dates, again, on either would be Tuesday through Thursday, which would be either somewhere between the 13th or the 15th, or the 20th through the 22nd. Meaning, it's most likely going to be announced on the 12th or the 19th. Anyway, I should probably be off. Cut.